China wants to cement its military status in the present day.
We see them deploying larger numbers of nuclear weapons.
By 2030, China will reach parity with the United States.
Is China actually capable of being number one? And is it inevitable? Let's get into China. And I would really like to hear from you. Comment below. Did you grow up in the era where everyone assumed, I know I did, and Gerald and I were talking about this, it's inevitable. Mm-hmm. China is going to be the world's next great superpower. We are going to take a back seat. We just need to accept it. Get ready to serve your tiny overlords, right? Prepare for the inevitable. I don't think that's true, and I'll lay out the case as to why that's not true and why there's been one person who has really been the fulcrum for this shift in our approach to China. So last month, a U.S. intelligence report, it actually reported that China is building a new military compound in Beijing 10 times the size of the Pentagon. Reference is available, link in the description. Every show, we do that. Please don't take my word for it. Do your own research. Now, their base is allegedly huge. That being said, the military equipment is still built by Temu. Couldn't use DeepSeek for that one.
That's cute.
No. And this is just the tip of the iceberg on some of the moves that Beijing is making. China obviously is trying to come on fast and strong, and they will if they will be allowed. Keyword is allowed to do so.
As the Pentagon signaled the emergence of the United States as a major military power, China wants to cement its military status in the present day.
On December 26th, China's aerospace sector flew a sixth-generation fighter design for the first time.
Hello, 大家好，欢迎回到外媒看中国，我是安博然。A Chinese artificial intelligence model, DeepSeek, sent shockwaves around the world last week, topping the free download charts in 140 countries and regions.
China has become the world's largest car exporter, overtaking Japan. Exports increased by about 60% in the first quarter.
When it comes to solar power, China is outpacing everyone. Last year, it commissioned as much solar energy as the entire world did in 2022.
China is not only expanding its naval bases at home, for the first time, it's establishing a new naval outpost in Southeast Asia.
Launched in June 2022, the Fujian is a massive leap forward for China's Navy, a stunning show of ambition and innovation.
10 years ago, this arsenal was around 50 or 60. It's now over 100. We see them deploying larger numbers of nuclear weapons.
Economists are saying that by 2030, China will reach parity with the United States. Mm-hmm. And what I'm saying as an expert in my field is that when you reach parity, you've lost.
And I know this is me being pedantic and childish, but I don't like taking any type of international finance advice from someone who looks like he wears toe shoes. And I get it.
For your souls, man.
Yeah.
Oh, whatever.
I'm wearing a long sleeve t-shirt. I'm not necessarily Mr. Formal, but enough is enough.
This industry is hacky sacks.
Yes, exactly. Frisbee golf. Now, here's the thing. It always worries me when you hear people in the United States going along with this because we know the propaganda line. And we also know the intent of China. They're very explicit about their goals. You can read about them in their state-run media outlets. There's your first clue. This is written I think we translated this. By 2050, 2 centuries after the Opium Wars, which plunged the Middle Kingdom into a period of hurt and shame, China is set to regain its might and reascend to the top of the world, even though the Chinese government certainly has not planned the timetable and roadmap to become the world's number one. This is a people's war. But is China actually capable of being number one? And is it inevitable? We've been told that, well, don't let this tin can I'm about to kick hit you in the teeth. It's time for some truth fact. I meant to say claim truth.
What?
We admonished Stephen. Truth fact?
Truth fact.
That's not even close.
All right. Yeah, get him.
I don't need to be admonished as well.
Yeah, because you tattled on him.
Yeah.
I can't
No, we both do.
He said it. He corrected himself.
So let's go first claim. Okay?
Claim. I just hit an admonish.
You're a little bit trigger happy for the admonish and not so much on doing your job. Let's try this again. First claim. China is going to overtake the U.S. economy. Just bet on it.
Well, I think China's a real interesting country, I have to say. The thing to appreciate about China is just that there's a lot of really smart, really hardworking people there, and they're going to do a lot of great things. This is sort of, independent of Chinese government policy. They're just going to do a lot of interesting things. The thing that will feel pretty strange is that the Chinese economy is going to be probably at least twice as big as the U.S. economy. Maybe 3 times, but at least twice.
Here's the truth. Probably not. So let me give you some numbers here on growth. Since 1990, China has averaged about 9% annual growth. Even 2 times, they were as high as 14%.
Yeah.
Okay, but in 2023, they struggled to meet the 5% growth target from the government. And then in December, Xi banned a top Chinese economist from speaking after he actually questioned an official government report because he believed it was worse. Here's what you also have to understand. China can't move. They can't transition to a consumption model, right? They have a bunch of people who are effectively modern slaves and they can support the goods and services that we need in a free enterprise society. But at a certain point, these slaves are going to want to take part. And for China to move to a consumption model, they would have to empower their own citizens to be able to have freedom of choice. That's antithetical to the communist regime. So the only way it happens is if the regime topples or there's a civil war.
Yeah, especially with their social credit score, limiting what you can and can't purchase, where you can travel, that really constrains the economy.
It's never ended well. It's never worked out long term for a communist regime like that, no matter how hard they have tried. I know that we've been told, no, they're getting it right now. Well, okay, we'll get through some of the propaganda in a little bit. But some of the giant, by the way, builders like Evergrande, Country Garden, Sunak, they defaulted. And part of the story is these developers actually pre-sold homes to pay off debt, never finished them.
This is rotten tail buildings, a term coined to describe unfinished homes in China, where towards the end of the construction, lack of funding causes the entire project to stop. In a sense, it does look rotten. But it's corruption at the core, where developers create Ponzi schemes to lure people to make down payments, and the fund is used to make more projects and bribe local officials. When the money dries up, banks start asking people to pay even if the buildings aren't done. And contractors resort to subpar material or simply abandon it. In 2022, a survey conducted found over 45% of home buyers in China encountering this rotten tail problem. That means no elevators, running water, electricity, or gas.
Jeez.
Seems like kind of a big deal.
Paradise.
So if people are telling you in the media, they're going to be the second or third, or they're going to be 2 or 3 times the size of the American economy, and they don't fill you in on that information, what's the motive there? Accuracy here matters. Why would we want to demoralize the West, especially if it's not an inevitability? The second claim you hear a lot, okay, is that, well, hold on, there's like 19 trillion. It's just a sheer numbers game. China has too many people. They're going to overtake all other countries because so many Chinese.
And that assumes a GDP per capita still less than the U.S. But since they have about 4 or 5 times the population, then it would only require getting to a GDP per capita of half the United States for their economy to be twice the size of ours. And as I'm sure people in this room know, the foundation of war is economics. And so if you have half the resources of the counterparty, then you better be real innovative.
So here's the truth. China's demographics actually are terrible.
Donald Trump don't trust China. China is asshole.
So the total fertility rate of China, it's one of the lowest in the world. To give you an idea, China in 2022 was 1, meaning women have an average of 1 child. In the United States, where we do have a birth rate problem, 1.7, 70% more. And they're at a crest right now where it's really going to prove to be a problem, especially because, it's an immoral, godless nation, despite what the Eastern gurus try and tell you, and they drowned plenty of their young girls in the bathtub.
Or left them on the mountain.
Yeah, exactly. So. Bitch again to me about the United States and patriarchy. 2024, the population in China declined for the third straight year. And that means you're going to see this pyramid where you have a shrinking work base and they have to support older people. It's kind of like what you're seeing with Social Security, because you had World War II, you had the baby boom generation, and the ratio now of retirees per workers, just the math doesn't add up.
No, it's crazy. And by the way, they said that that's not just a blip. That is going to be an accelerated trend in the future.
Yes, it is an accelerated trend because birth rates are, fertility is low, and that's not going to be fixed when you also understand that people aren't getting married. So
it's a shockingly honest proposal. 35-year-old Ho Yan Bin is here looking for a wife. His dating resume details his personality traits, political affiliation, job, and household registration. It includes a blunt assessment of his situation. Old male virgin seeking marriage. Ho is among millions of people in China between the ages of 20 and 40 who have never married.
If you get married in China, it's almost 100% sure that the guy is going to buy the apartment. Right. So the girl doesn't buy the apartment at all.
What if he cannot afford an apartment?
Then he cannot get married. So this is the reality.
That last guy looks like Mowgli watched the Steve Jobs movie.
Yeah.
I want to look like that. That could be me. Now, 2024, marriages in China fell to their lowest since 1980. It's down over 20% year over year. Also, that is the most Chinese way to try and get married that I could possibly imagine.
Yes.
Look at my spreadsheet.
He had his political affiliations on there. Yeah. How could you have, what is it? China?
Yeah.
I mean,
exactly.
I thought there's only one party.
In the States, we have like looks maxing. Guys like, I'm not finding what I need. Get on a treadmill, go to the gym. Yeah. There's like, look, I have deed to house. I have good family. I have good life. I am a virgin and I am a 5 or 6 tall. You marry me. Good business deal.
The only thing he's missing is a picture of him with a big fish.
Yes, exactly.
And I have no job because I am here.
Just clearly a photoshopped enlarged sunfish. Look at me, sunfish. Sunfish. Catch so many sunfish. You marry me. All the sunfish you could eat. Now.
I have an apartment. No gas, no elevator.
But many cockroaches. Now. Young Chinese citizens actually find the idea of marriage too daunting for a number of social reasons, economic reasons, and the anxiety is rising in the nation of China.
And that's the clip I just ran.
Oh, that's right? Oh, okay, sorry.
I can run it again.
Well, just run it for like 2 seconds.
It's a shockingly
So the marriage rates are shrinking year over year, and that's not the only thing that's shrinking in China, as seen by this international chart. Yep.
Oh.
Hey.
No, come on. No, hold on. But just to be fair, you actually missed one.
What's that?
Just hit it.
Well, I will say this: the likeness is uncanny.
Well, I didn't even make the chart.
Yeah,
that's true.
I'm an innie.
No one made the chart. Someone must have taken a picture of me while I was napping.
I was in the pool.
No pool.
That's why he's all wrinkly.
No pool. All Crowder.
All raisin.
Put that on my resume. Marry me, butter like a raisin. No prune, just a raisin.
Always
smaller
raisin.
than average penis. It was the last line. I'm like,
they call me sunmaid. Now,
at least you're tan.
Here's another claim, the third claim that you're going to hear a lot in accepting the inevitable, that China is going to be the world's great. And here's the thing, it could be if we keep screwing up and propping them up. They claim that our economy, the U.S. economy, and this is a given, is totally dependent on China.
While Trump brandishes the threat of tariffs like a bull with a bazooka in a China shop, nobody dares correct him on how they actually work. Let's break it down in the simplest possible terms, taking tariffs aimed at China as the example. Americans depend heavily on all kinds of products from China. Smartphones, digital automation systems, toys, media transmission systems, lithium batteries, display monitors, computer parts, and plastic goods, to name but a few. Any tariffs on these Chinese goods will be paid by the American companies importing them.
Yeah, we're very dependent. Well, here's the truth. We don't have to be.
Donald Trump don't trust China. China is asshole.
So the people who tell you we are dependent on China understand that this is the result of bad policy as they continue to advocate for bad policy.
Yeah.
The solution is not to accept your new rulers. In my opinion, you can comment below. The solution is to put an end to bad policy. So right now, it is true the United States does rely on China for quite a few things. So consumer electronics, Apple, for example, they've mentioned lithium. Tesla, obviously reliant on that with batteries, rare earth minerals for military applications, pharmaceuticals. But this didn't just happen in a vacuum. Washington is largely responsible for this.
Yeah.
So, example, they hamstrung the mining industry with all kinds of regulation here. Not to mention, of course, allying with unions who give 99% of their donations to Democrats, making production, manufacturing unfeasible here in the United States. So they then outsource for cheap labor. And this was done under the false guise that China would moderate. They'd become more moderate and they would come into the 21st century. Well, we're not actually seeing that. And so it's time to change course. Simple things that we could do. I know you think this is reductive. We could reshore some of the manufacturing. We could use tariffs to force their behavior. They're not going to become more moderate. They're becoming more communist, more fascist. Well, let's start with tariffs. They need us more than we need them. We can leverage some of the advantages that we have. So we could have export controls on high-end technology like chips. And not just us, but also use our allies like Taiwan, for example. We use that. Guess what? China has to play ball really, really quickly. The de minimis repeal, make that permanent. That's where there's no tariffs on goods, I believe, under $800.
And they're shipping directly to U.S. customers.
Shipping directly to U.S. customers.
Different stuff with the...
Stuff where they've stolen intellectual property and they just undercut
fake goods,
the companies.
things like that.
Fake goods.
Can't control it.
Everything is tiny. When you order it, be sure you actually get the measurements.
Seems like a personal experience here.
I have a whiteboard the size of a wallet that was meant for my kitchen for a grocery list.
Oops.
I have basters that you can only use for a peanut.
Yes, exactly. Yes, I got those too. I got an Easy Bake Oven baster.
Yeah.
No joke. It was so tiny. I'm like, what? Is this what they use in China?
Oh, Temu.
It took 3 weeks to get there.
Yeah, exactly. So those are things that we can do. And by the way, Korea has been very successful in leveraging their chip advantage over China. So it's not like this is something that's completely unprecedented. Here's another one that you hear, another claim, right? A myth that you will hear from those who seem to have a vested interest, and I'm sure we'll discover more in relation to their finances as far as our public servants, where they will try and convince you, well, here's the thing too. I mean, you may think that we're better than China, but actually China is a very harmonious society. Also crime-free, so maybe we should tear a page from China's book.
Do people feel free to work alone anywhere in America at any time of the day or night? Do people have this freedom? Well, this freedom, by and large, does exist in China. The statistics are absolutely incredible. You're 70 times more likely to be victim of a violent crime in the US than you are in China.
Right.
This is anecdotal, but in my 7 years in China, not only have I never been a witness or, God forbid, victim of any crime, but I've never had anyone in my acquaintances who was. It's a very, very safe country. So this freedom from fear does exist.
Here's the truth. None of that is true. The CCP just lies.
Donald Trump, don't trust China. China is asshole.
So a recent study found that up to 97.5% of all crime is not recorded.
Whoa.
Major killings go completely unreported, unheard of. Just to be clear. Why would someone be parroting this? Well, I think that's a valid question, and usually you can follow the money trail. Over just the last year, we've heard a ton of stories, by the way, of these killings, these attacks that are considered revenge against society attacks, in particular using vehicles.
Jeez. That's sad.
No crime. No crime. No crime. Let's be like China. No crime.
If they have no crime, why do they have ambulances and police officers?
No crime. No crime. No crime. 2024, there were 19 attacks like the one that you just saw. 4 times the rate of the annual attacks from 2019 to 2023. These are just the ones we know about. Imagine what goes on where you don't have a perfectly positioned camera, or the CCP doesn't get to that footage to destroy it before it makes its way out.
Yeah. Or you have people like that. Was that a priest? It's what it looked like, or some kind of a pastor, like being threatened essentially. If you speak the truth about this stuff, you'll be kicked out of our country. Go out and be a good shill for us.
Now, I wouldn't argue that there probably is lower overall crime because you have a society that is subservient, effectively, right, to their overlords. They live in absolute fear and terror. Also, there's an argument to be made that there are much harsher punishments if you commit violent crimes against white Western tourists because they want to keep up appearances. You know, you've all read about the Blazing Saddles fake towns in North Korea when people visit. That's pretty much all of China as it relates to their society and crime. If anyone tells you that it's a harmonious society where people look out for their fellow neighbor, they're lying to you, and you need to ask why, and then question the premise that China is coming, China is coming.
Yeah, exactly. So they do this around the world in places where big tourist zones, they actually put more police.
Of course.
Right? They have tougher prohibitions. In a place like China, if you really want to see, just go outside of a tourist area.
Yes.
Go outside of a tourist area and see exactly how it is.
Yeah, exactly right. Here's another claim. I think we're on 4 or 5 that you will hear from the people who want to beat you into submission mentally. They want you to simply give yourself over to the notion that we're all going to be speaking Mandarin within 20 years. And they've been saying this really since the 90s, to be clear. The claim they make is that, well, okay, not only are we reliant on China, not only do they have the population, but China is actually the world's biggest innovator. That's tough to deal with.
The rise of Chinese AI chatbot DeepSeek has taken the world by storm. But it's part of a wider trend. Chinese apps are rising up the charts around the world. TikTok, CapCut, Shein, Temu, to name a few. And it's not just on our phones. China is becoming dominant in many other areas of tech.
Yeah, show his neighbor eating fried scorpion from a sewer.
Yeah. I don't understand what that was showing. Was it just like a different...
it was showing the Face ID couldn't even tell him apart from other
Asian people,
just like Apple struggled with. So
here's the truth. Sure, China is the world's top innovator. If by innovate, you mean steal tech and lie about it. Yeah.
Donald Trump, don't trust China. China is asshole.
Remember last month we covered this story and we said, well, the most likely scenario is they're lying about this.
Yes.
Otherwise, this is going to change all of AI, but we erred on the side of they're lying about it. DeepSeek, they claim they trained their AI model for, I think it was under $6 million. Yeah,
95% less than anybody else on planet Earth.
And we thought, well, this would be a tectonic shift.
Yes.
Well, there's been a new analysis. Turns out the total cost was actually closer to $1.5 billion.
Whoa, whoops. That is a huge difference. If you're going to lie, why lie so big?
Make it big.
Because they knew that many in the media would carry the water and tell you, well, if China's doing this for $6 million and you look at these other companies, well, you just can't be competitive. It's the Chinese. They're coming. The Chinese are coming. The Chinese are coming. It's not true. Time and time again, these stories come out and they're quickly discovered to be lies. This is not the first time this has happened. Let me give you some other examples. 2023, you had propagandists. They were lying about how Huawei. I can't say it right. I don't care. I don't like their silly language and stupid people. Not the people, not the citizens, but the Communist Chinese Party. Some of the citizens. Now, 2023, they bragged about how Huawei, their new phone, was the first, I guess, domestic 7-nanometer chip. This was like a big thing. They said, right, Chinese scientists deliver a kung fu kick to the American imperialist nuts.
Okay.
Huawei and SMIC, both under U.S. sanctions, have created 7-nanometer chips without the gear from Dutch firm ASML, which shamelessly obeyed the U.S. empire. First off, isn't it always kind of funny when anything from China is calling the United States an empire?
Yes.
I mean, you actually did have that entire continent. You had emperors. This country here was founded on not having a king. I just think it's funny. And they tried to claim that export controls didn't hurt China. Well, here's the reality. Apple and TSMC, they've had 7-nanometer chips since 2018.
Oh.
And TSMC, they're already, as I understand it, manufacturing 2 nanometer chips, right?
Yes. So they're light years ahead. We've had this technology before, and ASML basically, this is one of those things that we can do to leverage our partners. They are the company that makes the equipment that makes the chips. They're the only company in the world that makes that equipment, and we just be like, hey, just don't sell it to them.
Yeah.
Just don't give it to China.
It's almost like they're more reliant on us.
Oh, a little bit, and our friends.
Yes. We're talking about ASML, right?
ASML.
Not, I prefer the ASMR. Chinese ASMR, it's just, yeah.
Oh, hello.
Oh, yeah. Tiny feet. Did you get tiny besta? I said tiny besta, tiny feet. Oh, so sexy. Now,
The sound of a Chinese lady slurping noodles.
Yes. Oh, you will only have a baby boy, no girl. Just a baby boy.
Pans together.
Here's another example. In January of 2024, Chinese military officials, they were reportedly caught stealing rocket fuel, replacing it with water.
Are you serious?
I tried that trick with my parents' vodka, and it did not work.
No, it did not work. They lie about everything, right? So this idea, they're the ones holding the economic... Well, no, that's not true. That they have the birth rate, they have the population. Well, no, that's not true. That they are the innovators. No, that's not true. That we are completely reliant. Maybe a little bit, but that's because we've decided to go with bad policy, and bad policy can be changed. And the one that really bothers me is if they're trying to tell you that China is in any way a better or more functional society, even discounting the idea of basic freedom, which is kind of foundational to us.
A little bit.
Just at the metrics, it's not true. It's not accurate. And if people are trying to sell you that bill of goods, you have to ask why. Because we have gone along with, and by that I mean our public servants, both Democrat and Republicans, even people out there who claim to be conservatives, they've gone along with this for a very long time. There's really been only one voice in my lifetime that has spoken up against this boldly, made it known, and has pointed out that the emperor has no clothes, and this very well may be a paper tiger.
I like China. 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 China.
If you look at Japan, if you look at China, where we lose $100 billion a year with China.
I'm going to instruct my Treasury Secretary to label China a currency manipulator, the greatest in the world.
China's defaulted with us because if you look at what they're doing with intellectual property, $300 billion a year. I mean, you look at what they're doing with the way they steal our intellectual property, our intellectual rights. I mean, it's crazy what they're doing.
Why do you keep using this? A lot of people say it's racist.
It's not racist at all, no, not at all. It comes from China.
And 70% of the signage on the Panama Canal was written in Chinese. That's not right. So it wasn't meant for China.
We would kick their ass. It's not true.
One voice.
Yes.
In our lifetime, one voice. And he was the voice, all the economists of this guy, he has no idea what he's talking about. He's a moron. And now they have to play catch up. This administration with Doge is moving so fast, the left doesn't even know. They don't know what to vilify anymore. It was like, hold on a second, they want to take away your reproductive rights. And it was, they want to audit the IRS. And now they're going like, I don't know, something about a mine shaft. It's fun.
They really don't know what to do.
And I want to see the same thing happen with China. Yes. I want to see China have to scramble the way our federal government has had to scramble, because it's time to, let's take the wool off from over our eyes and ask why. Hey, if you liked this video, you can comment or hit like. You know what, because you and I were a lot alike. Probably like dogs. I like dogs. If you like cats, I don't want you here. I'm not making videos for cat people. I told you, if you're a cat, I don't want you here. I'm not doing it. Not doing it for cat people. Dog person, click there. Cat person,